Sadly, for the animals and plants of Djuma, the rain has stopped, but it's a good thing for us because we can at least head out and explore now. Obviously, that's not what we wanted, but we've got no control over the rain, and the beauty is now we get to explore afterwards. We've got a herd of impala here, and they're going to be seriously happy. And also a beautiful view that's going to be very crisp and clear out to the west. I'm going to let Tebs, who's on camera with me this afternoon, do his thing. There's all the impala. They will be happy, and we can expect to see a lot of jovial behavior from all of the herbivores. Here they go, running off for joy. And we're going to catch up with them again, but what I'm going to ask Tebs to do is just to take you on a little bit of a tour of the mountains out to the west. It's going to be beautifully crisp and clear. And as he zooms in now, you'll see a few small little conical mountains. And the Drakensberg, a bigger range beyond that. Absolutely beautiful. There's still some thunder rumbling. The frogs are already calling, and the bush is coming alive. And Paul, on Twitter, you spot on. It is fascinating how the colors really begin to pop and show after a little bit of rain. I guess the leaves would have been washed clean of all the dry dust. Oh, sorry, that was Anne, not Paul. Not sure how I got that one mixed up. And also look at how full the little water or puddles are. This is a little mud wallow that's going to be utilized by animals like rhino, buffalo, warthog for wallowing in, but it's also going to be a drinking point. It's probably not going to last too long, but it'll be interesting to see how long the puddles do last. But now it means that all of the animals, especially the smaller ones like kind of leopard and lion, they're not going to have to go to main water points, which there are very few of. They're going to be able to drink out of these small puddles in the road, like just in front of us. So there's an abundance of water around now, and what that means is that we're going to probably be seeing less life around the Djuma waterhole. And let's hope that's for a long period of time, but sadly with the ferocious heat we're experiencing at the moment, it may not last too long, these little puddles. Wonderful. The rain is beginning to fall softly now, as you'll notice on the dash here and probably on me. But I don't think we're going to get anything too serious now. So we don't have to worry about racing back. To Gerard, who I think is an ex-South African watching from Saudi Arabia, and he's missing these wonderful African thunderstorms, and just to be able to sit and listen to the noises was something that he really enjoyed. And you're right, it's an awesome spectacle to behold. Now, what's interesting is that there's a whole load of birds that are all flying directly east, and it's a combination of rollers. You may just get a glimpse of them. That's a roller there. That's a European roller. But I've also seen amur falcons, which I think they've also just arrived back in the area. I'm not sure how many amur falcons you may have seen, but it's as if they're chasing the rain. I've seen a fairly constant flow of birds flying out to the east, so let's keep an eye on that. And again, like I said, there are amur falcons amongst them. It's a small raptor, almost the size of a roller, that feeds predominantly on insects. And I know there weren't any about before I went on leave, so just like the carmine beetle that Jamie found this morning, there's a strong chance that these amurs have come in while I was gone. having some trouble with my radio. But Curious One would like to know if there's going to have been enough rain to fill up some of the water holes. Let's go and check, Curious One. We're not too far from the treehouse water hole, so we'll head directly there. There may be a very, very slight puddle, but nothing too serious. With those water holes, there's a lot of cracks that will soak up the water that falls initially. So I'm not expecting great things with the water holes, but let's go and have a look. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to see some more birds flying out to the east, but that trend seems to have stopped. It'll be interesting to know why different species were all heading in that direction. Not too sure what it could be. Anyway, we're going to send you across to Jamie. I'm not too sure where she's exploring at the moment, but you can get a quick update from her, and I'll let you know when I get to the treehouse waterhole.
Well, that was short but sweet and really needed. I'm glad we had that little downpour. And apparently it's the beginning of a front, so we might even be seeing more rain over the next few days. How terribly, terribly exciting. Still sort of dripping on us in a half-hearted manner. And I think Scott and I both had the same idea because we nearly bumped into each other on the road. I just happened to turn off slightly sooner. But we all both travelled towards the lighter patch of sky. And that was the most extraordinary storm, as I'm sure Scott has mentioned. Wind howling, rain torrenting down. It was absolutely magical and exactly what we needed. We need more of it, of course. Just coming round Treehouse Dam. There's a bit of a puddle. Go. And those holes that we've seen that were dug out by the elephants. And you can see the rain is still falling. And let me, while we look at that lovely sight, let me just answer Scott quickly on the radio. Standing by.
Jamie, just to let you know, I've checked those down to Philemon's Cutland. I'm going to check Treehouse Dam now.
Okay, copy that, Scotty. I'm at Treehouse now. I'm going to work my way sort of southeast from here. Sorry, guys. Just coordinating with Scott.
Okay, well then I won't go to Treehouse Dam. I'll head back up to the final plans.
Copy. Sorry, Scott. Hijacked his route a little bit. Oopsie daisy. Unintentional, I assure you. Right, where was I? So we've had a little bit of rain, but we definitely need more to start filling up the dams and the underground water that we need. And Cat Curly, you might have picked up on the fact that the birds are all chirping and chirping and feeling thoroughly happy and singing their way through, and you've suggested that they're happy about the rain too. I wouldn't be surprised. For them it means a bonanza of insects at the very least. It also brought quite a nice relief from the temperature this afternoon. It got very hot at one stage. So this has been a lovely temporary break from the heat and the drought that we've been experiencing. I say that though, I made a very silly decision and I put a jacket on. So there's some rather damp looking impala over there while I remove a layer, and two boys reveling in the joy of the afternoon. High spirits. Oh, you can hear the rumbles of the thunder in the distance. Well, there you go. That answers Monique in London's question as we watch our little... Oh, I nearly got their name wrong. Watch the impala sparring with each other. Look at them go. high spirits and youthful hijinks. Monique, that sort of answers your question. So you were saying that in the area you used to live in, you'd love the way that the thunderstorms would bring down the temperature. And it's absolutely the same here when you get that. Look at them go. Well, I think we have quite a clear victor there. You guys going to carry on? No. Stop now. Having a bit of a groom. Can you hear all of the frogs that have come out all of a sudden? Sorry, Monique, I was in mid-sentence to say that, yes, it's exactly the same effect here. And it's dropped the temperature really nicely. Not quite, apparently, to jacket-wearing level, which I thought it might have. I went out very wrapped up nice and cozy, and really that wasn't quite necessary. But yes, it certainly drops the temperature down. And that's the sort of typical summer impression that we get. It's this magical, usually, not in this, it hasn't been like that this year, but usually what happens is you get these boiling hot summer days, but with a very electric feel, and you just know that at some point in the night or in the late afternoon it's going to be broken by the rumbling and crashing and banging of a thunderstorm. And it's one of the things that I miss the most when I lived away from South Africa, and it's something that I've reveled in since returning over the last few years. This year has been a little bit of disappointment in that respect. I'm sure all of the WildEarth staff agree with me. We watch the storms approaching, and then we watch with dismay as they sort of blow to either the north or to the west of us. So it's been such a treat to have had this pleasure this afternoon. And I'm sort of looking in the direction I'm going and wondering whether I've made a terrible, terrible error of choice in my route plan. Scott got out before me, so he got to choose to go west. I'm just looking at the cloud banks and picturing being soused. You may have to do fairly small loops for a while. You can see how dark the sky is this way. Uh-oh. Oopsie daisy. Might need to give the storm front a bit more time to move that way. And Raisa, we were just listening to the frogs. I'm glad you're as happy as we are about the rains, and Raisa would like us to find some amphibians to show her as she's watching in Finland. With pleasure. I'll be keeping an eye out. Already the frogs are calling. I've heard some cassinas and some foam nest frogs already out and about. And you'll probably find lots of little bushveld rain frogs. They're usually the first to make an appearance with their grumpy, squat little bodies. Let's have a look around and see if we can find them. I bet you, actually, now that I've just driven past that impala herd, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where the impala with the injured eye and the one horn is. He usually lives around this junction, but he's obviously moved just... Oh no, hold on. I think he's there. Probably in here somewhere. Let's do a double check. I always stop around here now to look for him. Nicknamed him Two-Face, or Harvey. Is that him there? No, that impala's definitely got two horns. Might be somewhere at the back. So for new viewers who are absolutely clueless as to what I'm talking about, there's an impala here with one horn. He's broken off his left horn, and some point during the excessive hormone increase that happens when the impala ewes go into estrus, or sorry, when they go into labor, the impala rams start to fight each other. And this poor impala, because he only had one horn, I suspect he incurred a terrible injury to his left eye. And his eye's almost, I mean, it's completely damaged. It will never function again. He's blind in that eye. And we've been watching it healing over the last few weeks. He's looking much better. But I don't know where he's disappeared off to. It would be very kind of him to show his face. It's amazing, though, because you see the left side of him, and he looks like a completely normal impala, and then he turns and he's got a missing horn and a damaged eye. And I think he's perfectly, I mean, he'll be absolutely fine. They're far more reliant on their sense of smell anyway, their sense of smell and their hearing. And he's got one functional eye, so I think he'll be okay. Aw. It disappointed me. He's usually here. This is his impala herd. Here somewhere, but I can't find him. So we're looking at the most numerous antelope species that's here. New Bailey, who I suspect is a new viewer, welcome to the Sunset Safari. We go out live twice a day, every day. So young area, we're in the
So it appears Jamie's just lost her signal for whatever the reason may be. That's why you rushed across back onto our vehicle. No major updates. I did a U-turn when I realized Jamie was at Treehouse Dam ahead of me, but glad you got to see that sooner than expected. And we'll leave her now on focusing to try and find Harvey as we try and find Karula, the female leopard whose tracks we had in this general area about half a mile behind us, heading towards where we are now this morning. Obviously all those tracks have been washed away now from the rain, so it's a clean slate. And shame. Young Bailey, I know Jamie was halfway through answering your question, well, not even halfway through, I think she was just starting it, when she lost her signal. And young Bailey would like to know if there's any dangerous animals in this area. Yes, most certainly the leopard that I've just mentioned is one of them. We also get lion, hippo, rhino, Cape buffalo. What am I missing? Those are the most dangerous of the animals we get here. Cheetah and wild dog are two predators that aren't really dangerous to us as humans. Of course, they're dangerous to the antelope that run around here. And interestingly enough, I think the most dangerous three animals that we get here in the Sabi Sands are probably all vegetarians. They're all herbivores. The elephant, the buffalo, and the hippo are possibly what I think the three most dangerous animals in this area. The big cats have the potential to be dangerous, but thankfully, they don't see and realize their power and speed and agility and how much better it is than ours. And often our brain power can outcompete their strength and speed by us kind of standing our ground and shouting and screaming. It makes animals like lion and leopard think twice about attacking us. And it's something that they seldom want to do. Most animals, even down to animals like snakes, will try and avoid human interactions at all costs, and it's just when you push that boundary too far, young Bailey, that they tend to start fighting for themselves and standing up for themselves. So on this open vehicle, even though we may appear vulnerable, we aren't very vulnerable as long as we read into the signs of the animals, and when they warn us not to come any closer and we listen to them, it tends to work out just fine like that. Beautiful dark clouds that we're heading up towards. There's a few bolts of lightning being emitted from them. Now, I know Raisa mentioned that he's hoping on seeing some amphibians after this rain. Sorry, she. And Raisa, I think there is a strong chance that there will be some African bullfrogs out looking for an easy meal later, so that's my guess. And there's also a good chance that some reptiles will be moving around. I saw a tortoise drinking. Oh, there's one just in front of us. I saw a tortoise drinking out of a puddle as we headed out. And there's also a chance we will see some snakes moving around. This one's trying to get moisture from the ground. Look at this right in front of us. It's literally licking the road. I wish there was a puddle closer by for you. Literally, the other tortoise was right in the middle of it. But this one's gonna not have to travel too far. There's one or two puddles that we've just driven through behind us. And well done, Di, on forecasting that there's going to be some critters on the road. Here we have one right in front of us, so we're going to have to keep a close eye and make sure we don't crush any as we're searching for other animals. This is incredible. You may even just be able to see its little tongue sticking out. Tasty wet sand. Very nice. Nice just to stop and watch it and also listen to all the sounds around us. There's a lot of frogs already calling, and they're going to be hard to find unless they are the African bullfrogs or the bushveld rain frogs. Those also kind of present themselves out on the roads. The others tend to conceal themselves, but there's already a loud chorus of frogs competing for mates, trying to make the most of this short window period. Good, well, we're going to leave this tortoise before it gets too close to us and get out of its way. It'll probably temporarily duck into its shell. And then continue as if we weren't even here. Other predictions just come through from Curious One, suggesting that this rain may bring out some termites. And you're right, Curious One, it could very well bring out some termites. It's quite interesting. There's a tiny little terrapin in this puddle on our left here. We try to direct Tebs to it. It's somewhere there. There, you can see a little bit of movement. I think it's just ducked under the water. But what's fascinating is that this little wallow was completely dry, and this terrapin's obviously been sitting very patiently in the hope that there will be some moisture at some point, and it's got lucky. I'm not sure how long it would last. Oh, it's just popped up, but it's moving too quickly for me to see. It looks like it's trying to forage for some food and little snacks on insects. It's probably very hungry after lying dormant for quite some time. But sadly, I've lost track of where... Oh, here it is here, Tebs on the left. You can see it in this little gap here. I think it's somewhere there. Oh, yeah, spot on. Just if you zoom straight in there, you'll get him. Oh, just in time. So, good news for that terrapin. Curious One, I'm not sure if any flying ants or reproductive termites, which is a better word. I use the incorrect terminology, as do many people, calling them flying ants. They are termites. And there is a chance, but can't guarantee that it will happen. They usually come out during the first rains of summer. Now, obviously, because it is a drought, we haven't had many rains, or much rain. So there may still be a few stragglers, a few reproductive termites that are going to emerge, but I fear that it just may be a little bit too late in the season. Let's wait and see. Good possibility, though. Shannon in Ohio, and you would like like to know, what do we see most after the rain? So as I was just discussing with Curious One, it depends on the time of the year. The initial rains of summer often bring a massive influx of insects, especially the reproductive termites, but insects across the board. And even now, I'm sure that there is going to be an influx of various insects. There may be little stink bugs or one of many, many hundreds of different types of insects that we get here. But it's interesting how they come in kind of waves, and each different rainfall will present you with different insects. So it'll be interesting to see what emerges after this rain. But it's also a good time to see snakes. They like to move around after they've often been wet, wherever they may have been lying around and digesting a meal or keeping warm. Now they're going to head out in search of a dry area. Other than that, I can't think of anything that really comes to mind in terms of a massive influx of animals that we'll see, other than the ones that we kind of see on a daily basis to varying degrees. Okay, well, it seems like Jamie's signal has finally recovered. She's having a bit of signal issues on her vehicle today, but for now it's good, and we're going to send you back to her for a quick update.
As we went live there, the fly flew perfectly up my left nostril. Here we go. So, to carry on with Scott's conversation about what to expect with the new rain is the increase in insect activity. I'm quite surprised the flies are out already, but we do seem to have a particular brand of stubborn fly that inhabits Djuma, and they apparently quite like to fly up my nose. This is the third or fourth time it's happened to me whilst live. I was going with a different conversation topic before that happened, though. Awesome. Okay, so Bev's question has actually reminded me of what I was going to say, and that's the fact that it smells absolutely phenomenal, Bev. So Bev is saying that she wishes she was out on drive, just the smell of the rain, the feel of the bush after a moment like this. Steenbokkie. Sorry, Bev, I'll be with you in a moment. It is one of the best times to be out and about, especially since it comes as such a relief. Well done, Wium. Thank you. Hello, boy. Those spear-like little daggers that are his horns. He's actually got quite long horns. Impressive, mature male steenbok. And for new viewers, to give you a perspective of size of that little creature, it is one of the smallest antelope species that we see out here. It is just under my knee height. Actually quite considerably under my knee height at the shoulder. They are tiny, shy little creatures that like to rely on their cryptic coloration to disappear into the vegetation. And if you surprise them or if you give them a shock, they might dash away a couple of meters and then stop and stare at you and try and figure out whether or not you've seen them. And as Wium goes a bit wider on the steenbok, you can see how incredibly tiny it actually is, which as always makes Wium's incredible spotting a special gift to us presenters. And while I'm here, and since I was in the process of chatting to Bev, this is actually a really nice view to look out over the bushveld. Bev, it is stunning out here. As a South African, I'm sure that you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure you visited the bushveld before at this time of year. And the smell is petrichor, is the word we discussed a couple of days ago when it rained on Drive, the smell of the earth after rain. And for viewers that have not been in this particular area before, there is a unique smell to the African earth after rain, and particularly because we know that these lands are so thirsty at the moment. What a treat. It's amazing how you take something, or you can take something like rain for granted. I'm sure for the animals, they must be feeling a distinct feeling of relief, especially when the green shoots start to come through and they've got something fresher to nibble on. Wonderful thing as well about this particular weather is that very often the big cats come out to play. They come out to wander around and remark where they've laid down scent marks since it's been washed away by the rain. It's also nice and cool, so they don't feel like they're overheating. They don't feel like they have to lie down and rest in the shade. To drizzle on us here. And bravo, Viak. Yes, the rain has rejuvenated all creatures, great and small, myself and Wium and Scott and Tebs included. And speaking of Scott and Tebs, I think it's time to head over there and see what they've been up to.
Well, for those of you who were on the sunrise safari, this may be a familiar scene. Oh! That was awesome! The youngster didn't want to get left behind, but its mother is being pursued by a big male. And Jamie was actually with these animals this morning. This is the kind of joy that herbivores show after the rain. Sorry, I'm all over the show, but that little jump of joy from that calf is definitely because of the rain. I feel, at least. Let's reposition and try and get you a better view of the mother of that calf and the male who's chasing after her. Should work for a short moment in time. The female is the one on the left in front, and there's a big male who obviously knows she's coming into season. She's obviously not quite there yet, but he definitely feels it's worth hanging around until she gives in. I'm surprised he's actually let her get that far away from him, to be honest. And he should pop out from behind a thick bush. But the calf's moving in the same direction as well, so that's good. And let's see if it doesn't give us another little performance as it runs closer to its mother. The big male's just started moving, and he should pop into screen shortly. There we go. Look at that. Here we go. Look at how fast it is. That was awesome. Let's creep up again. We may get one more little trot before they disappear into some thicker bush. There we go. This is going to be awesome. The male's finally catching up to the female now. And you can see how he's licking his lips and his nostrils. The smell must be driving him crazy of her coming into season. And what will often happen is that female giraffe will often actually urinate over the nostrils of a male who's testing her. But he's going straight for some tasty moist acacia leaves. It's all happening here, not easy for Tebs. The young calf looked like it was possibly going to do another little trot for us. Let's see if it doesn't give us one more little display of its speed. No, it seems to have calmed down. Let's do one little loop ahead though, get a better angle of the adults feeding. Remarkable the contrast in color between the male and the female. And Jamie's just mentioned that she gives this male giraffe a lot of persistence, or sorry, gives it a lot of credit for his persistence. And you're right, Jamie. Hopefully the female will give in at some point. Beautiful. A romantic meal for two, with the calf kind of looking on awkwardly in the background. Not only can you compare the size of the male and the female, but this is a good opportunity to compare those horn-like structures, the ossicones. And the males are about twice as thick and also lack the tuft of hair that the females possess. Yay! I've just had an awesome update, and a good friend of mine, Nikki Sherman, who we were with just a few days ago in Cape Town, is watching for the first time. And I guess, Liam, you're also probably there. That's Nikki's boyfriend. Good to know you guys are watching. And Nikki, I'm happy to hear that you're enjoying this cute little giraffe. Thanks for letting us know. What a bonus. And I was just telling everyone this morning, Nikki and Liam, that I was doing my bit for SafariLIVE marketing, and urge other viewers to tell as many people as possible. And that way, hopefully, we'll be able to take you on safari, not only here in the Sabi Sands, but in multiple destinations all around Africa and the world. So that's the goal. And we just need to keep spreading the word. For now, though, we're going to wish this big giraffe bull some luck with his lady and his quests. There he goes, licking his lips again. Young Bailey, I'm very happy to hear that you want to make your way out here on safari at some point, and I would strongly urge you to do everything possible to make that happen. And young Bailey's also interested to know if a giraffe fight has ever been captured on a live safari. Not with us, which probably means not with anyone else. I'm just going to reposition quickly. I'm not leaving Tebs with a good angle to work with here. And no, I don't think that it would have been captured before, so we're going to have to try and make that happen for you, young Bailey, to capture a giraffe fight. It's not something that happens very often, and the few giraffe fights that I have seen haven't been hugely ferocious and aggressive. But it's important to understand that they can actually fight to the point that they could knock one another out, completely concuss their opponents, leaving them sleeping in a daze on the floor, or they could actually very badly injure their legs. There's a few different techniques, not dissimilar to human boxers. You can either go for headshots, which is kind of the jackpot, or you can go for multiple body shots to try and weaken your opponents and hurt their body. That will cause them to lower their guard, and then you can deliver a kind of headshot. And the giraffe are no different. Sometimes they'll be flinging those ossicones, those little stumpy structures on their heads, straight into the legs of one another, not necessarily always going for one another's heads. And who knows, young Bailey, maybe another big male will come onto the scene in the next few moments and give this male a run for his money. It's not uncommon that several males will be trailing one female coming into season. Maybe this guy's just lucky that others haven't caught wind of her, or maybe he's already chased others off. Hello to Monique in London, and you'd like to know how long will a giraffe calf stay with its mother? I'm not sure of the exact details with regards to that, Monique, but I will hazard a guess at anywhere between 2.5 to 3 years. So even though they may not be dependent entirely on the milk of their mother for that long, they will stay within the herd for up to that period of time. And it's not uncommon to see a mother with 2 calves, and, well, you see that one's being naughty. Obviously the fact that she's coming into season now is a sign to us that this calf is too big to be drinking milk, and that's why Mom's pacing off like that, not even giving her calf the time of day. But yeah, Monique, anywhere between 2.5 and 3 years, I think, would be the average age that a giraffe would spend with its mother. Thereafter, females may decide to stay on with their mothers, and young males will probably decide to move off and join a small bachelor herd and go learn the ways of the wild before trying to look for some females of their own. But they don't form family herds, so males will come and go only when opportunities like this arise, when there's a mating opportunity. She is certainly playing hard to get there. Oh, she's going to take a drink out of this tiny little puddle. Let's try and get you a better view. Oh, look at that. Get ready for more screenshots. I'm just really desperate to try and get us a better view. No luck. Maybe the male will follow suit, though. Come on. Oh, the calf's going to go in for us. Just as good. No, decided against it at the last minute. All these giraffes are playing hard to get. Even the young calf. Wasn't it beautiful, though, the way it flicked its head up, the female, and that stream of water went flying into the air? Some of you may have managed to capture a screenshot there, and if you did, well done. Now the calf's giving its mother a bit more of a hard time. Probably hoping for some milk. What I'm going to try and do is actually reposition the vehicle while Tebs gives the screen a bit of a wipe and get the sun in our favor, because we're busy shooting directly into very white light, making it difficult for Tebs to provide you with the shots that you would desire. There we go. Look at that. What a wonderful scene. Dark, dark clouds out to the north. And if we're lucky, they'll bring some more rain to Juma, because the small downpour that we just got is literally a teaser compared to what we need. But we'll take whatever we can get. Oxpeckers are enjoying grooming themselves after their compulsory shower that they would have just taken, along with all the other animals here. There's nowhere to really seek refuge. There's no caves or outcrops for any of the smaller animals. Obviously, animals like giraffe would have a hard time anyway. And being under a tree is certainly not going to help greatly, because it was literally raining horizontally at one point, with the strong winds that were gusting through. Brian in Philadelphia. Happy to see you so active on the questions. And it's an interesting story, everyone. Before I answer Brian's question, when we first met him, when he came out to Arethusa sometime last year, early last year, we asked him if he ever chats to us and sends through questions, and he said that he had yet to send through one question. So we laid down the law, and slowly Brian is getting into it. And the question he's just asked is a very good one, and that is whether or not the giraffe will use the Jacobson's organ or the vomeronasal organ, which is a scent organ, in order to process smells. And a lot of the mammals here will do that. The lions, the impala, buffalo, rhino, just about all the mammals possess that Jacobson's organ, and so too do the giraffe. I can't, for some reason, though, remember seeing them curl their lip up, which is the technique used by most mammals to better activate that organ, and it basically allows them to better process the smell, and it's often in their upper palates where that funny little organ's found. So Brian, I am fairly convinced that they will use it, but I just can't for the life of me remember seeing them do it, seeing them curl up their lips. So maybe look at this female giving the male a run around, literally. But for some reason I can't remember. Let's watch closely here. It looked like, oh, she's going to have another drink now. Let's try and get some screenshots from here as she flicks her head up. I don't want to risk moving in case it's spooks her. Is that, oh, just a quick one, not as impressive as the previous one, but let's watch very closely. There's a strong chance if we spend long enough here, he is going to try and smell the rear end of his lady-to-be. As I said earlier, there's a strong chance she will urinate as he does that, so that he can better process the smell, and that way we'll be able to have a closer look. Brian. Hello to Leanne, who's watching in the Netherlands, and we'd like to know if female giraffe live in groups or herds, and yes, they typically do. So it's interesting that this one is on her own. In some areas of Africa, up in Kenya and Tanzania, I remember seeing large herds of giraffe, up to 20 strong. But here in the Sabi Sands, a large herd of giraffe would be kind of 4 or 5 or 6. And yes, usually you see them in small herds, but there's no strict rules. Oh, the sun's coming out. This is going to be awesome, especially with the very dark clouds in the background. You don't get contrast like this every day. And what perfect subjects to be enjoying it with. And as Tebs zooms out, you're going to get a great idea of how drastic this contrast is between the dark clouds and the bright green guarri bushes. They're a hardy plant, and that's why the droughts had little effect on them. They'll be green from winter through summer, and even now during the drought they're putting up a good fight. Just going to creep forward a little bit more, I think. Two interconnected questions. One from Pamela, asking if giraffe are scared of these thunderstorms that we have. And I guess it'll depend on the individual, Pamela. Kind of just like some of your domestic dogs and cats. Some will be afraid of loud noises and others won't. And I guess giraffe are probably similar. But because most of them would have grown up from a young age witnessing their parents' behavior. Oh, hello. I don't think that they're going to be hugely concerned by it. And then another question from Ray asking if giraffe are ever harmed in these electrical thunderstorms. And yes, Ray, I have heard stories of giraffe being struck by lightning. And obviously because of their height, they are going to be better lightning conductors than any other animals on the African plains. But it's not something that I've ever witnessed or seen, and I've only heard tales thereof, but it's certainly plausible. And I guess something important to remember is that even if they seek refuge under trees, that's the worst place you want to be in a lightning storm. You don't want to go under a tree. So, not many places for them to go. Hello, Gracie, who's just 8 years old, and I'm glad you've asked this question because you would like to know, oh, there goes the baby running down the road. Gracie wants to know, why is it that this mother and this big bull are ignoring the young calf? And Gracie, I don't think they're doing it to be horrible. I think they're just having to try and sort out discussion that they're busy having. So mom and dad are busy making plans maybe about the future of the youngster and which school to send it to or which university to send it to. But they are definitely having a conversation. Even now you can see mom and dad on the right there. They are very focused, and even though they're eating, I think they're trying to plan the youngster's future. And you can see the youngster probably does need to go to school. It's running around wildly, and it's also trying to drink mom's milk, and I think it's too old to be still drinking mom's milk, so maybe that's also what they're discussing, what plans they can have to stop it misbehaving. Well observed, Gracie, aged 8, and good to know that you're watching. I hope you are well, and thank you very much for that very, very good question you've just sent through. Let's see what the youngster does now. I think it may try and take a drink out of this little puddle in the road. It seems to be looking at it. Come on. What have you seen there, little giraffe, that's captivated you? Italian seems to think that Big Daddy Giraffe isn't eating as much as we think he is, and he may be keeping one eye on his lady. So it's all just a bit of an act, according to Italian, and I think you could be right. Here we go. Come on, go for it. Yay, it's doing it. Get ready for screenshots. This is going to be wonderful. Get ready for it to flick its head up. There we go. Just a little miniature flick. Not as impressive as its mom's. Oh. And this is just what I spoke about earlier. The animals, big and small, won't need to travel long distances, at least temporarily, in search of water, and they'll be able to make do with all these little puddles in the road. Okay, well, we're going to send you across to Jamie for a quick update, and I think I'm going to leave this happy family and head off back into the general area where I had some tracks of Karula, a female leopard, this morning, in the hope that we'll be able to find her hiding somewhere, maybe up on a termite mound, maybe drying up in a marula tree. Anyway, time will tell, and we're going to send you across to Jamie now.
I have a bit of a game for you that I think we're going to play this afternoon. It's called Guess the Antelope Leg. So you don't, I mean, the thing is we can't really sit and watch antelope legs for the next 5 minutes. So you've got a sort of a split second that you can play it just with yourself as to which antelope you think you are seeing the legs of. And as it happens at the moment, it's mostly what we can see of this particular antelope. So, any guesses? Any guesses? Okay, you've got about, I think I've got to put a time limit on this, so we've got 10 seconds to guess. Oh, and there's a face. I didn't think that sort of part of the quiz through. The fact that every now and again they dip their heads down to graze on the new green shoots. So there you go, your answer for that particular antelope was Nyala. It's actually quite a tricky game. You'd be surprised, and the reason I know that it's tricky is because I used to examine Panthera camera trap pictures. So there were 100 camera traps up at the reserve that I used to work at, which means we sifted through somewhere in the region of about 30,000 photographs that were taken by the camera trap. And a camera trap, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is a motion sensor camera. And we had to sort every single picture that we went through. And I must admit, I say we, most of it was done by my friend Emma. But that included, and the thing is, it was those camera traps were set up for leopard research purposes. So they were set up quite low down in terms of height, just to be able to get the spot patterns of the leopards concerned, which meant when something like a nyala wandered through and all you got were legs, you had to be able to figure out what it is. So a fun game for all of you to play. I'm going to try it's difficult for the wildebeest, but if possible, every antelope species that I see, I'm not going to tell you what it is for the first 10 seconds. We'll try and see if we can do a leg shot. Hello, little one. Look at the tiny horns coming through. This little boy is probably only about a year old. And there you go. So a lot of you were suggesting that it was an impala. You guys are so quick. I'm very impressed. And it does, their legs do look like an impala. It's part of the reason I want to play this quiz with some of the regular viewers. It's fun to play. You find yourself so familiar. Maybe a leg quiz is slightly tricky. Depending on what kind of visual we have of the antelope species, we'll do, for example, a tail, or I don't know. Okay, legs and tail. Maybe side, I don't know. We'll figure this out as we go along, because I think it might be quite a good game to play. Well done, Teresa, and a couple of others for guessing a nyala as quickly as you did. I'm super impressed at the speed and accuracy of your antelope knowledge. Could be tricky though. We'll see how this works. I must admit, I didn't entirely think this entire process through, so we'll see how it plays out in practice. Interesting aside for those of you, and I know there are a few of you considering careers as safari guides, or maybe just considering going and driving off-road and on 4x4 and so on like that. Just before we went live, I had my hand dangling outside of the car, and it turns out that if you do that, you drive over a stick that's got a slight slant to it, it's going to shoot up and smack you in the hand. So I got to wrap across the knuckles for that particular. I wouldn't say that I'm grievously injured, and I'm not broken, but it did come as rather a nasty surprise. I'm guessing that little accident that wrapped me on the knuckles and will probably leave me with a minor bruise if I'm lucky, despite all of my whimpering and rather pathetic response to it. James Francis, you were wondering if there's a speed limit on the reserve roads. Now generally when I'm driving along like this, I drive at a fairly sedate pace. I think I'm probably one of the slowest drivers out of all of the presenters. I quite like having the opportunity to really examine my surroundings, particularly since you never know when there might be a leopard well camouflaged under the bushes. Do you think we can pull this off, Wildy? We go from the ground up, maybe. Let's give it a go. Sorry guys, part of our antelope leg quiz. So this is not Wildy's usual standard of camera work, but there you go, wandering off. Oh, and a head gave it away. You have to be quick. You have to be quick before the antelope reveals itself, particularly with these guys. Well, obviously they've given themselves away as impala. But good identifying feature is the black scent glands on the back of the ankles, although you might have noticed with the Inyala that they also have similar black patches, but they're on the front feet as well as the back feet. In impala, those black patches are only on the back side of the leg, on the back legs. Also playing hard to get, as it happens. They've all disappeared off. I hope you're all really enjoying this game, because poor old Wium has to put up with it and go from the ground up, film from the ground up. Luckily our cameramen are so exceptionally tolerant of our shenanigans. So James Francis, sorry, back to the question about the speed limit. Generally reserves, private reserves like this, and of course Kruger itself, do have enforced speed limits. That doesn't mean that people don't break them. In Kruger, it is one of the things that is very strictly enforced. There's lots of speed cameras. Unfortunately, there's always certain people or certain members that do speed, and therefore there are the occasional cases of roadkill, which is always very, very sad. My experience with reserves, I'm actually not sure what the Sabi Sands speed limit is, but I imagine it's somewhere around 40 kilometers an hour, and that's only on the main access roads, which is, what is that in miles? It's just under 20 miles per hour if you're watching from that part of the world. For the most part, especially on private reserves, people are very, very careful about and very aware of the possibilities of, and it's not just tortoises, James, it's also things like frogs and millipedes and little animals that don't always get noticed, but guides in this kind of area tend to be very sensitive about that sort of thing. I will say that I've done a few quick swerves and a few sudden braking moments in my time as a guide. Wonderful question that's come through. So from Colleen Spencer, you wanted me to say a big hello to Al Waltz. Hello. Now apparently Al Waltz is 85 years old and watches the safari every single day, which is wonderful. Oops, sorry, 84 years old and watches the safari every day. I stand corrected. Well, it's wonderful, and welcome to our sunset safari. And Colleen, you wanted to know something else as well. It's just gone straight out of my head and been distracted. Oh yes, I remember. So we spoke about the speed limit. Sorry, Colleen. My head's all over the place. It's the rain. It's the weather. It's the weather. It's made me lose my marbles completely this afternoon. Colleen, in terms of how many miles we cover in one drive, try and think about it. I used to measure the drives that I did in my old job just because it was part of our research purposes and we had to record it for every drive. And it was usually, but we used to do 6-hour drives, so much longer drives. It was usually around, I would say we traveled about 35 kilometers, which is, hello tree, which is about, that's 35 kilometers. It's about 16 miles, but that's a very unusual case, and that was in a research facility that covered huge distances. So within our live safaris themselves, I would guess that we maybe cover a maximum of about 10 miles per drive. I would say is probably roughly what we do. Depends, of course, on the sighting that you get. So if you get a really, really nice sighting with Karula and she's completely static, then obviously we don't travel as far. But I mean, I assume you mean in the kind of average drive. Sorry, I don't know how this is gonna work. This isn't gonna work. This isn't going to work at all. Bit of silver cluster leaf there to the base. It's okay, there's no thorns. Oh, no. No, this is not going to work. Oh well. I hope you all enjoyed that. Wium enjoyed it. I imagine that the ladies in FC must be absolutely paralytic at this point. Oh, that is very funny. Okay, I'm gonna try and contain the giggles. Oh god, that was so funny. Okay, deep breaths, deep breaths. Wium, did you enjoy that?
A lot.
Oh, that was hilarious. Okay, I'm gonna try not to giggle anymore. Oh, the things I do. Gracie, in answer to your question after that very, very relevant moment and that spectacular show of dignity and gracefulness, Gracie would like to know if all of the fallen trees can't speak. Okay, Gracie would like to know. Gracie wants to know if all of the fallen trees that we drive past on Drive are from elephants. Gracie, yes, they absolutely are. The elephants tend to reshape the landscape a little bit and leave booby traps in the road. And the reason that I actually got out to move that particular silver cluster leaf tree was silver cluster, because what happens is people ignore them and they drive around, and eventually they start to form a new road, which is actually not that good for the environment. So I figured I thought I'd give it a try, see if I could pull it off the road. I was not expecting the branch to break on me. That was a cruel and unusual booby trap that was made for poor old Jamie to go and move out of the road. And while I recover myself, oh, hold on, there's buffalo. Hello, boys. Oh, shame, he's actually blind in his left eye, this gentleman. And they are going to wander off behind the trees, and I think perhaps I need a moment to recover both myself and my dignity. And while we do that, let's head over to Scott, who has a raptor to show you.
Here's some more European rollers all heading off to the east. And there was another flock before this one headed over. And for those of you who weren't with us earlier on, you wouldn't have seen this, but there goes some more. And I don't know what could be causing it. We saw it early on Drive, rollers, both lilac-breasted European and even Amur falcons, flying directly to the east, all on exactly the same trajectory. And here they keep coming. Here's a few more that are going to be tricky for Tebs to find. I don't know where they've just ducked below the horizon, possibly. But there's almost a constant stream of them heading out. Here's another one up there. Anyway, it's just this fascinating behavior that's kind of inexplicable. At least I can't come up with a decent explanation. One thing that came to mind is that maybe there was a fire that was started from the electrical storm out to the east, and a lot of birds will flock towards fires to feed on the insects that are being barbecued for them. Anyway, we're going to have to keep our finger on the pulse there, and in the meantime, we can stop and show you the bird that we initially stopped for. It's a pale form of the Wahlberg's eagle. And you can see it's still a little bit damp from the earlier deluge. it's in all likelihood the individual that has a pair on a road that's named after their nest called Wahlberg's Nest Road. And both of them are pale form. They can also be a dark chocolate brown color. But what's characteristic is that tiny little crest or tuft on the top of their head, as well as their size. Not easy to see from this angle. And you might be able to hear some grr, 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 grr behind us. Those are some crested francolins, which are alarm calling due to the presence of this Wahlberg's eagle. And it wasn't too long before I headed out on leave that I actually saw Wahlberg's eagle feeding on a young francolin. An adult francolin will be a little bit large a prey for this eagle, but the chicks, which this francolin that's alarm calling us behind us probably has, are certainly going to be under threat. And that's why there's that constant chattering there, and that's what caused me to look up into the trees. It's a good indicator of how, by listening to alarm calls of the various animals here, they can help us to detect predators, not only lion and leopard, but also the smaller predators like birds of prey and snakes. Good. Well, interestingly enough, the rollers have stopped streaming. Literally, as we went across onto the Wahlberg's eagle, they stopped, and no more were coming from the west, but maybe they're kind of coming in waves. It's just bizarre behavior that I've never noticed in all my years in the bush. And I've let Nikki know to tell Jamie to also keep an eye out into the sky and see if she doesn't notice any more rollers and ammo falcons. It's interesting also that it's kind of a set species, mainly the rollers that are doing it. So Jamie's also on board with this mystery now. Mike in Florida, good to hear that you've made it up to 217 birds already, and Mike's just urging me to try and complete a quest that I didn't manage to complete before I headed on leave, and that was to find him a grey-hooded kingfisher. So Mike, that is where we are now going. We are going in search of the grey-hooded kingfisher. It's about 10 or 15 minutes away from here, but very happy to go and check out their little nest cavity in the banks of the Milwaukee River, and maybe this afternoon we'll get lucky. But well done on getting up to 217. That's really good going, and I think Mike may well be in the lead with regards to the most birds documented on SafariLIVE. I must tell you, Mike, there's a bird that I got a glimpse of the other day, and I've only ever seen one in the Sabi Sands, but it's still important to know that they are here, and it's called a violet-eared waxbill. An incredibly pretty bird, one of the prettiest of all the waxbills, and it's almost actually worth me showing everyone. So let me get my quick app out here. It shouldn't take me long, even though I am a Neanderthal on these phones. No, good, we're getting there. Violet-eared waxbill. Here we go, take a closer look. Incredibly pretty birds. I saw one on Impala Road, close to Power Lines Junction, when I was on a bushwalk. It was just a fleeting glimpse. I want to get the photographs though. Look at that. Can you believe it? Oh, that's even better. Oh, that's the lady. Also quite impressive. Often the ladies don't get any coloration, but she's still looking very good. Another one other lady. And that's their nest. Interesting. Very good. And the little eggs that go in the nest. So, violet-eared waxbill is another bird that we can hopefully find at some point, but it's going to be a tricky one. And whichever presenter manages and cameraman combo, because it's definitely going to be a team effort there. The cameraman's going to have to be lightning fast. It's a small bird, but whichever team of presenter and cameramen gets the violet-eared waxbill, I think they will take the ornithology trophy for good. So, good questions come through from Debbie in Vancouver. And she's interested to know about an animal that we haven't touched on this afternoon. And we've touched on just about everything: amphibians, insects, reptiles, mammals, birds, but no arachnids yet. And she would like to know if there's a chance that we'll start seeing the very large and pretty golden orb-web spiders. And we should do. I'm not sure if this drought has had an effect on them, but basically they would have been growing from the early months of summer, kind of November, December, in very small webs. And obviously because both them and their web are very small at the start of the summer, it takes them time to grow. Now, depending on how successfully placed their their web was, that'll obviously depend on how much food they catch and how quickly they grow. But I haven't noticed any yet, not even baby ones. So, again, I've been away for a couple of weeks, so things may have changed whilst I've been gone. But we will certainly be keeping an eye out for them. And hopefully they are going to pop up. They're incredibly cool spiders, really big, thankfully not harmful to us. And they've got incredibly strong webbing. That's a golden color. Strong enough to catch small birds, just like that violet-eared waxbill that I showed you earlier. But that's not what they're intended for. They intend to catch large insects, not birds. And the only bird that I've seen that they've actually fed on was a sunbird. Very, very small bird that the spiders actually did feed on. Usually the birds just tear up the reb. So beautiful clouds out to the west, and as we make our way down the hill, I'm just going to ask Tebs just to give you a quick glimpse of what's going on across there. Check that out. I think we're going to be in for a beautiful sunset if the sun does manage to peek through those clouds. That's out to the west. No time to delay, obviously, because we're on the way to try and find Micah's grey-hooded kingfisher. So the only thing that I'll be stopping for are wild dog, lion, cheetah, and leopard. Other than that, we've got the blinkers on. To Chris Freeman, who's watching on YouTube, and I'm guessing you've got a whole class of students watching with you, because one of your students is interested to know how big is Juma, and it's 1,242 hectares. We do have another property called Arathusa that we can also traverse, and I think that's around about 800, not quite as big as Juma. I'm just going to stop here and allow Tebs to try and capture this grey heron flying off. It's a bird we don't often get to see going at full speed, and that's a water hunter. A lot of you will know about herons because they do occur, I think, just about on every continent. Well done there, Tebs. So that's the size in hectares, about 1,200 hectares here on Juma. We are a part of the Sabi Sands, which is 60,000 hectares, and the Sabi Sands in turn is connected to the Kruger National Park, which is 3 million hectares, or actually increasing. It's a trans-frontier national park that touches into Zimbabwe as well as Mozambique. So we are literally the tiniest of pinpricks on a monstrous, monstrous ecosystem. And just to give you a better idea of how much land we get to cover in a kind of format that would be understandable to more people, because hectares and acres and all these other figures and terms, often people don't know what's what. I certainly don't even really know. But it's about 5 miles by 5 miles square is the property that we get to explore here on SafariLIVE. So that's the general rule. It's not a perfect square. And not to confuse anyone, but there are some intricacies when it comes to traversing. And if you are ever planning on coming to Juma, you will have more land than we do. So even though we base ourselves on Juma, we don't get as much land as the guests who come to Juma to explore. They get about a total of 6,000-7,000 hectares, possibly even more. So they've got a very large area that they can traverse with their guides Aubrey and Texan. The reason why we can't get more traversing land is that the Sabi Sands are so popular, and all of the agreements to allow people to traverse one another's property have already been kind of made. And now we're trying to slowly squeeze our way in and try and get onto a waiting list. If anybody does want to give up their traverse, then we'll try and sneak in. So that's also a reason why we don't have access to more land, and it's a good thing that we don't, because vehicles that get into any given area up to a point can be useful, but then up to a point can also be detrimental, and you don't want to be driving around an area passing hundreds of vehicles. It definitely detracts from the wilderness experience. And as you guys have seen this afternoon, we haven't passed by not even one vehicle, and it's often the case here in Juma. We've got a lot of land and not too much traffic, which is the way you want it to be. Hello to Acido Bites. Apologies if I have pronounced your slightly complicated name incorrectly. But Acido Bites is interested to know, why is it that the leopard and the lion do not attack us here? And it basically comes down to the fact that the figure of a human being walking upright as we do has been one that has tormented wild animals for many, many years. And ever since the beginning of mankind, we have hunted animals and killed animals, and back then it was mainly for survival and maybe the fur of a leopard to keep warm in the winter. Either way, these animals were persecuted by us for many, many years and have remembered that. So they are cautious of us, and on top of that, and more importantly, we've evolved to be very clever, whereas lion and leopard haven't. Their evolution has made them incredibly fast, incredibly camouflaged, incredibly stealthy, good at hunting, but not good at outwitting a human being. And that's what's put us as the number one mammal on the planet, or animal on the planet really, is our brain power. And what that means is that it further allows our brain power to outcompete animals like lion and leopard simply by a display. And if and when we stand our ground, when a lion charges us, it will stop and think twice about attacking, as would you. Even if you were running up to somebody half your size, if he stood his ground and started shouting and screaming at you, you'd think, oh, hang on, maybe this guy knows karate, or maybe he's got a knife, but I don't want to jump on him just yet. And lion and leopard are the same, and because we've got that brain power, over time we've been able to kind of reassure them that A, we don't want to hurt them, B, we don't have any food for them, and C, we are going to stand our ground if they charge us. So over many, many years, they've come to realize that we aren't a threat, we're not a food source, even though we could be. And they've just come to accept us into their lives. And we fit in this kind of neutral position where it's as if we almost don't appear. So I hope that kind of does answer your question. What we need to remember is this reserve alone has been operating as a photographic safari destination for close on 65 years now, since the early 60s. And every single year, people have been coming back, many people coming back on safari, making sure that we don't interfere, we don't interrupt with the animals, we don't annoy them. And over time, that's why we've been able to fit into this neutral position. I guess the same almost goes for the herbivores, which would also naturally run away from us. We've assured them that we are, again, not going to feed them, we're not going to hurt them, we're not going to hunt them. Therefore, they've got little or no concern for us. Good question, though, and it is hard to believe driving around in these open vehicles that these potentially very dangerous animals don't see us as an easy meal. Just as well. Okay, Mike in Florida, get your binoculars ready because we are getting into grey-hooded kingfisher territory. Anyone else who's interested in bearing can jump on the bandwagon. If not, I don't know what to suggest, but that's what we're going to be doing for the next few minutes. We're going to drop down into this little riverbed down to our left. Well, that's our big riverbed, and it's the Mawati. Main riverbed that flows through our property, basically from the Gowrie Dam all the way down to our southern boundary. Okay, so notice there's a few small cavities in this bank in front of us here. Now, those could be from kingfishers in the past, or they could be from carmine bee-eaters. Those are two birds that nest in cavities in banks. Now, further up ahead, there's going to be a few more cavities, and that's where Brent has seen the grey-hooded kingfisher actually exiting from the nest. I've just seen it in this general area, so we need to keep our eyes peeled. And while we do so, I can answer a question from Leanne, who's interested to know what education did I get in order to work out here as a guide. And to be honest, it's quite simple actually. I did a 6-month course. That's usually the kind of minimum period of time that you would spend doing a wildlife course that gets you all the required national kind of legislations or qualifications in terms of national legislation in order to be able to guide. And thereafter, obviously, like any career, you start to build experience and knowledge as you go along. But it certainly isn't rocket science working out here, and certainly worth looking into if you're interested. It's not hard at all. Come on, kingfisher. Could be sitting in any of these little trees around us here. The first time I actually came here hoping to find it, quite a funny story actually, I stopped right here because the cavities in the bank are up ahead of us here. So I thought, let me stop here and check what happens. I'm not sure which cavity it is. Brent says it's the one furthest to the right, but how far right, I'm not exactly sure. But in one of these little cavities, the grey-hooded kingfisher's nesting. And I was stopped here looking all around, hoping to see it. And Wium, who's one of the other cameramen, who's out with Jamie this afternoon, says, there goes a funny kingfisher. And I hadn't told them the plan. I just come here having known that Brent had seen it here. And the kingfisher had flown from this knob thorn acacia. It's right here, I mean, just to our left. It was sitting just up here, and then it flew sadly all the way up into that dead tree. And from here, even if Tebs zooms into those go-away birds that are sitting in that tree now, you don't have the greatest of views. And sadly, the grey-hooded kingfisher is a lot smaller than these grey go-away birds. But it outfoxed me. It was sitting right here, very close by for a few moments before it fluttered off. And as soon as Wium said that that was a strange kingfisher or a funny kingfisher, I knew that it was the right one. Let's carry on now and see what happens. Maybe we'll still get lucky. Well, you guys guys are in for an absolute treat. I'm just going to make sure that this grey-hooded kingfisher's not around one of these next corners, though. And the reason why I say you're in for a treat is that apparently Jamie attempted to move a fallen down tree. I'm not too sure when, and she fell directly onto her bottom and made a fool of herself. She is now back at that same very tree, hoping to redeem herself. So, no sign of the grey-hooded kingfisher here. Sorry, Mike, we're trying, but please enjoy Jamie's second attempt at moving the log.
So, I've returned to the scene because really all it took was a bit more thought than perhaps I originally put into my entire plan. There you go. That was all that was needed. Just a gentle roll rather than a tug. So I have recovered. I feel a lot better about myself. I refused to be defeated, and so we did a big circuit around Buffelshoek Dam and then came back.
And you conquered your fear.
Yes, conquered by fear. Thank you, Wium. I didn't think I'd ever have to conquer my fear of silver cluster leaves, but there you go. Learn something new every day. Conquered the fear. We've had a good chuckle. We have recovered ourselves. I'm still laughing. I feel as though I am triumphant now and very much wrapped in my rain cover, but the tree is off the road. Now people can drive here without having to inconvenience themselves and drive around. And thank you, Silver Clusterleaf, for that particular contribution. And so forever after, whenever we drive down Drakensberg Road, you will be able to remember the time that I fell over.
Right, let's go look for Mbula.
Okay, Wium says now that we've done that, now that I was determined to do that, now we've got to go look for Mbula. That's Wium's condition on returning back here, is that we go and find Mbula for you guys afterwards. Well, I certainly feel better about things. The sun is out, we've had a bit of rain. I fell over, but it's okay because the tree is now out of the road and I've achieved what I set out to. Not quite how I intended. Not exactly as I intended. And as I said, every time you hear us mention the Drakensberg Road, driving up and down, you will remember that particular time. I've often said, not realizing, of course, that I would be the brunt of this, I've often said that WildEarth should have a blooper reel or an outtakes reel. Well, there you go. That's one for the record books. Oh, today has not been my afternoon. I smashed myself in the hand. I fell over trying to pull a tree out of the road. That's okay. It's still a beautiful afternoon. Absolutely. James Richards, to go back to the effects that the rain might have, you were wondering if there's any chance of a giant land snail sighting, and absolutely. It's amazing how quickly they come out of that sort of, it's a sort of form of aestivation, which is kind of like hibernation. They slow down their metabolism, they withdraw into their shell, and they make quite a sort of a crusty, solid film across the base to protect themselves. And they generally do that when things get too dry. So for the most part of the dry season and in winter, we don't really ever see them. But now they start to come out, and it's amazing how fast that process actually happens. It's like the tortoises emerging. And I've spoken before about the terrapins coming into mud puddles in the road, literally within maybe an hour or so of the rain. And I know that you saw that particular, or those particular reptiles with Scott. So there's always a chance that you're going to spot a land snail as well. So you've seen the terrapins coming out and about. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for the well done for the tree maneuver. Turned out to be one of the easiest trees I've ever moved, and I have moved really big trees before. It just had to be that one that led to the backward stumble. I'm going to phrase it like that. It wasn't really a backward stumble, was it? I mean, it was really, I fell over quite spectacularly, in fact. Wium, I think, is still trying to control his Cheshire Cat grin. I think he was highly, highly entertained. Not something, though, I'm going to repeat. So treasure that moment, because I don't intend to doing that again.
I'm going to repeat it.
Wium says he's going to repeat it. I imagine that whether I want to or not, I'm going to be hearing a lot about that and probably seeing it repeatedly, possibly over and over and over. Oh well, it's one of those things. Had to be someone. Thank you all for the congratulations, though. It's a very faint rainbow. Difficult, very difficult to spot. It's faint even to the eye. And maybe a Buddha's at the other end of that rainbow. We never know. Let's go find out. So, and as we do, Darlene, you were wondering because you were saying that your favorite animal is wolves. Darlene's watching in New Hampshire, by the way. So you love wolves, and obviously out here there's no chance of seeing them, although essentially the wild dogs are an African type of wolf. They fit into a very similar ecological niche, and they actually have quite fairly similar social structures. But you would like to know if there's ever a chance of seeing a jackal on these live safaris, and you're wondering if they were maybe endangered because you haven't heard them mentioned. And Darlene, there's absolutely a good chance of you seeing either a side-striped, which is the most likely one to see out here, or a black-backed jackal, and I know many of the regular viewers have had quite a few sightings of them. And they're generally quite territorial. There's one that lives on the Arathusa airstrip and that we see every now and again. It's actually a black-backed jackal. I must say, I was quite fascinated when I first started working here at how few jackal there were around. They're not animals that are endangered. There are animals that are persecuted throughout South Africa if they make their way onto farmland, for example, where they're considered to be somewhat unfairly a threat to livestock. But they're tiny. I mean, they're tiny little canids, and for the most part are very well equipped at both a combination of scavenging, and I'm looking at the European roller there. Combination of scavenging and eating various insects. There he is on the right there. Now I know that Scott mentioned he saw flocks of European rollers and bee-eaters flying to the east. Well, there's one of them. We are on the eastern boundary. It's looking a little bit sorry for itself and a little bit bedraggled, but that is a beautiful view of a lilac, a European roller. So we've actually done relatively well with birds today, between all of the different species of bee-eater, and now a beautiful view of the European roller. And you can see now up close how dominant that blue color is, as opposed to the lilac-breasted roller that is a striking combination of purple and blue. European rollers. Oh, what did he catch there? He's back up on his branch, but he shot down towards the termite mound and caught something. Oh, and swallowed it. That was quick. Wow. That was very effective. I wonder what's starting to emerge from these termite mounds. Hey, our first kill of the day. Well done, Mr. Roller. Hidden as you are. And actually behind him, I'm going to start up and... Oh, no, he's going again. What is he after here? caught another one. He's after the flying ants, so the termites that are coming out because of the rain. Well done. That's his second one in the space of under a minute. Very impressive. That's why he's settled down here next to this termite mound. It's right behind Wium, which is a bit tricky. I think I might reposition so that when he goes again, you can actually watch the full process. But look how beautiful that view is. They really are exquisite birds. One of the migrant species, unlike the lilac-breasted roller that we see all year round. This is the best time of year to be watching European rollers. I think I'm going to shift around because they're going to keep coming to this termite mound as these reproductive termites start to come out. So they're emerging from the vents in the termite mound, and they're starting to pop out there. And that's something that I'm sure, I don't know if Scott touched upon, but is very common to see after the rain. If I go here, is that okay, Wium? Get both for them. Oh, beautiful sky. So maybe, as Scott mentioned, apparently he did touch on the subject, and he said it might not be as numerous as it is usually around the first rainfall, but we do get these population explosions. I've put Wium straight into the sun, which actually isn't ideal. I just want to see if that roller decides to go again. Let's just give it a moment. Where did he go? Oh, there he is. I couldn't even see him there for a second. Hidden behind the branch. There he is. Well done, Wium. Are you going to go? Oh, the suspense is killing me. So yes, the European rollers, as I mentioned earlier, are a migratory species, and they come through during our summer months. So maybe a bird some of you might have seen during its time further north of our position, or further north of South Africa.
You hear a lion?
It's a lion calling.
Yeah. Opposite direction.
I'm just going to take my earpiece out and just listen for a moment. I think you've just heard a lion calling. There's a plum-coloured starling, or a violet-backed starling, one of the most exquisite little birds. It's difficult to see in this light, but they take on the most incredible purple sheen. Also probably attracted by the explosion of reproductive termites, although, as Scott actually said, they haven't been coming out nearly as thick or as fast as they have in the past. Now, what's been interesting for me to observe, and it was something that one of the viewers raised a couple of weeks or a couple of days ago, about the bird, whether we've seen a reduction in bird population here, or rather, as it was phrased, whether the reserves closer to the mountain ranges, so closer to the Drakensberg, and they have had a bit more water than we have had here. And a viewer asked whether or not there's been an increased presence of some of the bird species in that area. And Fiona, this sort of comes onto the topic of what you've asked about waxbills. And we haven't actually seen, I have seen waxbills around and about. Fiona was wondering if there's a reason why we haven't seen them recently on the live drives. Honestly, Fiona, I have noticed a drop in their number, which I'm quite surprised by, but I've also noticed a drop in the number of cuckoo species we've been seeing. There was a period briefly at the start of summer where we were hearing the Jacobin cuckoo all the time. We had the two greater spotted cuckoos that were sort of hanging out around quarantine, you'd always hear the Deirdricks and the Klaus's cuckoo. And it's honestly been days since I last heard a cuckoo calling, and I actually haven't seen any of them recently. And I think that ties into what you were asking about the waxbills. I wonder whether or not they haven't moved to a more suitable area in terms of rainfall. And they don't have to really move far. If we look towards, I mean, the distance towards the mountains where that often catch the rain on the escarpment, it's probably in a straight line, about 100 kilometers or even less, actually, in certain parts. So, Fiona, I actually think that that's why we haven't seen as many. They've moved off. I'm going to leave our roller because there's not that much coming out. We did hear that lion calling. I think it's across our boundary. I think it's in Buffelshoek, but I'm going to go up and check that boundary out anyway, see if there's any sign of tracks coming through. Now, if it is towards the north, sounded like it was coming from in that direction. So if it is from that direction, it'll probably be the Salati males calling. It's been a while since I've heard them call, but you never know. We're still waiting for the Nkuhumas to make an appearance, or maybe even the Telematis if we're really lucky. I've never seen them before. Last I heard, though, the Nkuhumas were further southeast around in Coral. You're watching in Texas and you wanted to know where we get the most questions from and why that might be. And Ginny, the most questions that we get through are from the United States. So anywhere around the States, we get lots of questions coming from there. I don't think I could pinpoint a state specifically. It tends to be pretty much from all around, although I'm sure that time zones also play a little bit of a part in terms of our wonderful viewership. And I think the reason why is because Big Cat Week televised broadcasts, so when we actually go onto television with the product that we bring to people, we do a live drive on Nat Geo Wild, that is broadcast, as far as I understand, only to the States itself. And I think that's what's brought a whole load of viewers on board from America. But we also get viewers from all around the world, and some of our most regular viewers who've been watching for a very long time come from across Europe. We got a question through from Tokyo the other day. Our viewership is fairly broad, but definitely the majority of our viewers are based in the States. And I'm fairly certain that is largely to do with things like televised broadcasts like Big Cat Week, maybe something, or the Mother's Day specials that we did, the 2 shows that we brought to the States in October. And that, I think, has just reached a broader market. And then people have come from there and continue to watch after that. It's wonderful, though, and it's wonderful to see the way in which WildEarth is growing and developing in the future. I'm so excited for the prospects that the future holds. And I know that the rest of the WildEarth team feels the same. There's a lot of hard work and love that goes into the product that we bring the viewers. And it's wonderful to see viewership coming through and to have all of those questions just to remind us. Because when you're a guide and when you take a drive, trying to flap my nose again, when you're a guide taking a game drive, you're able to look back at the people that you are talking to, and you're able to communicate with them and get an effect or get an impression of the effect that the information and the wonderful sightings that you're sharing with them is having on them directly. But of course, when we're out on drive like this, we're looking straight into the camera. We've got the wonderful cameraman. But the questions and the comments that come through are what really make it so special for me personally, I would say, because then we've got information and feedback, and it feels like we've got you all on the back with us. So it becomes like the biggest safari vehicle in the world. And I think that without the questions and the comments, it'd be these Safari Live drives would lose such a crucial aspect of them, because we get to talk to you all. It is like having you on the back with us, even if we've never met you. So please, as always, we encourage you. I know our regular viewers have asked lots and lots of questions in the past, but for new viewers, we always encourage you to send through whatever it is you would like to send through. Comments and questions, anything like that. And we love to hear from you. And let us know where you're from in the world. Let's see if it's not just States-based. As I drive towards the beautiful evening sky, Scott has made his way towards the hyena den. So let's see what's happening there and whether there's going to be any sign of those brand new cubs.
Well, this is really exciting stuff for me. It's my first time at the new and I think improved den sites of the Juma clan. And there's also a few new additions, I'm told. I don't know who's who and what's what, but I know some of you have been paying very, very careful attention to the hyena and trying to work out which one belongs to who and what's happened over the past year that we've been filming them. So thank you very much to all of you who have contributed. I haven't had enough time to make sense of all of the information and screenshots that have been used, but look at this for an awesome sighting. So far I've seen 3 adults, one of which is in screen now, another one down to its right, and then one up to the top right of your screen lying at the entrance to the den. And I'm told there's some tiny new very cute additions to the clan, which will be pitch black in coloration, unlike the other little... Oh, look closely. I think I just got a glimpse of one's head. It was ever so slight and ever so quick, but it's going to be worth keeping an eye... Oh, there we go. Mom's definitely trying to get at it. Trying to urge it out. Come on. And now I'm told that this is thought to be the new matriarch of the clan and was one of the attackers of a recent bout between hyena. It's believed to be intra-clan. I'm just going to ask Tebs just to pan across. That's what was making the noise over there. It's that young cub who's cowering away now from the adults, and that little cub there was born in November and has been named November. And this is all information that's kindly being relayed to me from the final control, because like I said, it's not an easy business keeping tabs of who's who. Now I'm going to do the unthinkable and tell Tebs to stop filming this cute cub that's coming up to us, because there's a bit of action unfolding back up there. Now, who's who here? That cub to me looks like it could be one of the twins that we had seen a little bit earlier, that's just run through the interconnecting tunnels of these burrows and popped out in a different hole. There's November there. And those two, while I've been gone, have been named December 1 and 2, the slightly smaller ones. Isn't it wonderful that we're getting to see their developments? And not only that, but be able to compare the developments of the various ages, with the spots only just beginning to show through on the December twins. Yet on November, it's quite a lot more prominence. I mean, there's just so much intricacies here in terms of clan hierarchy. There's a little tussle going on here between the sub-adults, which has been called June, and there was a little bit of a kind of hierarchical hustle or display there between June and December. I'm told December 2 has got a little white sock on its foot. I think it's December, no, sorry, that's December 1. So that's something to look out for, a little bit of white on the paws. Oh, and clearly being put in its place by June. Well, there's going to be a combination of playful antics as well as slightly more serious bullying, you could say, just to reaffirm statuses amongst the different clan members. Well, I'm not sure where the apparent matriarch has disappeared to, but she's no longer in sight, so maybe she said goodbye to her cubs, or who knows, maybe there's another kind of entrance mount. Oh, look here, there's some anal pasting. The one on the top right, Tebs. It just finished, you can see it wagging its tail, and what they do is they'll curl their tail upwards towards their spine and then rub a scent gland on their anus, usually on small little twigs. What message that hyena was leaving, I'm not too sure. And I stand to be corrected, but I think that this is the mother of November, who's an immaculate-looking hyena. She looks quite young and in really good condition. So I'm guessing that's November's mother. Oh, some more interesting behavior on the far left, Tebs, with two little cubs. It looked like November was actually being mounted by December. So we just missed that, but that's what was happening there. This is so awesome. There's so much going on here. And they are such incredible animals, hyena. And for us to be allowed this insight into their lives is really fascinating. And now it's just about trying to keep our finger on the pulse and keep tabs of who's who and what's what. Not an easy business. But I feel with all of your guys' help, sending through prior screenshots and your thoughts and ideas as to who's who, it's really been a great example of teamwork, getting to know what's what. Good question just come through from Sarah Dobson, and she would like to know at what age will the young cubs start hunting. And let's have a look here, Tebs. June's coming up to say hello. Hello, June. Anywhere from about this size, they may start being taken out on foraging missions. Hello, I think that's November's mom that's just strolled past. Excuse me, November's mother, what exactly are you looking for here? It's sniffing the vehicle behind Tebs quite intently. I wonder if he's going to be able to swing the vehicle, the camera around without it getting a fright. It's shuffled a little bit away from the vehicle, but still very, very close. We have got no meat or snacks here. Although the other game drive vehicles certainly will. I'm sure they'll be carrying some biltong, some dried meat, South African delicacy. Anyway, sorry, back to the question. Anywhere from about 6 months of age, that'll be the earliest. Some more interesting behavior, some urinating at the entrance to the one den there, Tebs. This is something that hyenas will also commonly do. And they'll do it in the same spot. And look at how she's purposefully putting her feet into this puddle of pee. The one hyena is even sampling it there. The cubs are getting all involved. And who knows what that's all about. Again, it's probably, I mean, it definitely has to do with some kind of dominance display, some kind of a message it's leaving behind. And they'll do it in the exact same spots. And Kirsty's just confirmed from the final control room that the same thing did happen just 2 nights ago. So whether it's trying to say that this is the main burrow that I like to lie on, or entrance to all these burrows, I'm not too sure, but they're clearly reading into this, sniffing very, very deeply. And wouldn't it be wonderful if our senses of smell were as intricate and as powerful as these animals? I guess food is one thing that excites our nostrils. But other than that, we can't really read into too much as to whether humans are coming into season, so to speak, or in a good mood or in a bad mood, or trying to give us a message. All we can tell is whether something is going to taste good or not. Oh, we have some arboreal tree-climbing hyena cubs. This you don't see every day. Part monkey, part hyena. Oh, there we go. And it certainly is monkeying around up there. I think it's going to be a common play point for the hyena. They do like... Oh, there we go. There's the next one's turn. King of the Castle, I think, is what's being played here. Sorry, again, back to the question about how old hyena will be when they start hunting and running with the clan. It's more likely from a year upwards, though. And the only reason I say it's as early as 6 months is that Brent, interestingly enough, a few months back, saw another hyena. We hadn't named them or kept really close tabs of who was who back then, but another small hyena at around 6 months of age was seen at a leopard kill, where Tingana, a big male leopard, had a kill hoisted up into a tree. And I remember Brent being amazed. I was amazed to hear that that cub had been taken so far from the den to a potentially dangerous spot. But their education can start quite young, but more typically from around a year of age they'll start moving more freely with the clan and getting involved in not only hunting, which they can do. It's not documented as much as we would like here in the Sabi Sands, but more often than not foraging here for snacks that have been killed by other animals or leftovers that have been abandoned by other predators. And even though hyena can be really formidable hunters, I feel that in the Sabi Sands they rely on the high leopard density and the fact that it's easy to steal from leopard. Oh, there was another anal paste. Did you see that with the little cub? It says if you just zoom straight in, there was 2 little blades of grass to the right of that cub. And there we go. Those are the 2 little blades of grass that popped up after its pasting. So they are all leaving messages in various spots around the den, all talking to one another, even though they're all here. They're leaving kind of long-standing messages or notes, you could say, for one another to read. Happy cub. The reason why hyenas will not climb trees to try and access the kill of a leopard is they lack the skill as well as the tools. Their claws are always extended and are not nearly as sharp as the claws of a leopard, and they lack the agility, know-how, and I guess anatomy to be able to climb trees. They can try and jump. There was a hilarious clip that was filmed last year, or 2 years ago, I think, actually in 2014, with Peter Pretorius. Oh, here's another anal paste. There we go. It's fascinating. They actually hyperextend their anus. You may have seen a glimpse of that before pasting. remarkable animals, these. And even though it may appear disgusting, let's not forget that a lot of animals out here sniff and smell the rear ends of their various sexes and various counterparts in order to communicate. It's not just the hyena. So we mustn't label them or bracket them, because they have been previously badly publicized, and I think that's why many people the world over kind of have this unjustifiable reason to dislike them. But they are, well, there is no reason to dislike these animals. They are fascinating and a critical key components in the African wilderness. Without them, there'd be a massive missing link in the chain. As I was saying, the Happy Cub, there was a really funny clip of this hyena trying to jump up to a kill. I think it did eventually get to it and pull it down out of the tree. I can't remember for certain, but it was literally falling onto its back. Oh, it wasn't 2014. It was May this year when Peter was back for a short stint. And for those of you who don't know Peter, there's another presenter called Peter Pretorius and another one called Hayden Turner who come back and join us for the TV broadcast that we do to Nat Geo Wild channel. So don't be, oh, not too sure what's going on there, but you heard the loud cackle of one of the cubs, not too happy. I'm just going to ask Tebs to quickly pan across to the right. There's a beautiful pink skyline that it would be rude of us not to show you. There's a tree in the way, but look at that. And Jamie's one step ahead, and we're going to send you straight across to her vehicle, who's waiting to show you an even better view of the setting sun.
And this is definitely worth the look. After all of that noise and thunder and torrential downpour, you can see the clouds that you're looking at now slowly retreating away. That's that end of that storm front, but I think more rain on the way. Looks as though it's coming. I think we might expect a little bit more, but you can see how the rays of the sun have poked through, and the colors this evening are absolutely incredible. There's not many ways that you can top an African sunset like this. It really is quite spectacular to see, and especially when it's come hot on the heels of a little bit of much needed rain. Just look at that sun. Well, we just wanted to take a quick moment to show you this, just because it is so special. Incredible. All right, well, I'm going to send you back over to Scott now, who is still at the hyena den.
Well, very happy to hear that Jamie got you into what sounds like a wonderful spot to enjoy the incredible sunset. You didn't miss too much, thankfully, and there's just been some more general play between the cubs. You didn't miss out on any vocalizations, and I'm hoping and wondering if they have been vocalizing, and if so, have they been letting out their whooping howl from this den at night, late in the evening? Because it's one of my favorite noises about the African bush, and it's one that we seldom get to hear and show you from up close. Hello to Iggy, who would like to just confirm the correct collective noun for a hyena. And a pack is usually used for dogs, Iggy, and despite their appearance, they're actually more cat-like than dog-like. That's why we call their youngsters cubs. And The official kind of collective term that's used for hyena is a clan. There may be one or two others, but as far as I'm aware, it's a clan of hyena. Cape turtle dove calling behind us. What are you thinking? You're very restless. Are you coming to look and see if there are any snacks? I'm not too sure who this is. Speculations coming through that it could be Bella, a hyena that would be 1 year old now, born last year, and she's sending off. There's that very distinctive notch on her bottom that you may have seen on her right bottom cheek that Nikki remembers seeing from a way back. So well done, and I'm happy somebody's kind of keeping tabs of who's who, because like I said, I am really battling to know which one is which. And I guess there's an important lesson there. Often people sitting at home or in the final control room are getting better views than the presenters and cameramen out here getting the film, the shots to you. And I guess there's a number of reasons for that. Maybe we're looking on a very small monitor. Tebs is looking to a tiny little screen on his camera. Anyway, I guess it's kind of equatable to watching a live sports game from home as opposed to being here in the flesh. There's certain benefits to being at home. Good speculations just come through from Jeffrey in Texas, trying to kind of read into a little bit more about this urinating at the entrance to the burrows. And Jeffrey seems to think that maybe, I mean, it could be that there's more testosterone in the actual urine, which gives a clear message that they are the alpha. It could well be the case, Jeffrey. It certainly could. I guess with other animals, kind of like rhino, and other animals that will scent mark in territory areas, even leopards, they'll be able to read into that smell and tell whether it was a big, strong male, I guess, or one that they should be scared of, or one that they can try and overthrow. So there is a strong chance that testosterone levels may come through in their urine smell, but I can't guarantee that. Certainly a good speculation, and thanks for planting that seed. Raid Freak on YouTube. Also interested to understand a little bit more about these complex creatures, and I would like to know at what age will hyenas start being able to reproduce. And I would say anywhere from about 2 years of age will they'll start becoming sexually active. But I do stand to be corrected there. I do know it's applicable for leopard and lion, that the 2-year age mark is one that will mean that they could... Oh no, hang on, I'm way off now, and I'm talking absolute nonsense, so forget everything I've just said. And it'll be a little bit more than that with the lions and the leopards, probably closer to 3 years of age for lions, 3 to 4. They'll start giving birth, so possibly it's the same for the hyena, and I just said 2 years because I was equating them to cats, which are similar to them. What's interesting, though, is that even though they're very young, you can see they've got a lot of control over their genitals. And this youngster's displaying just that right now. And they can fully erect their genitalia from a very young age. So, interesting stuff. Sure, Chris in Pennsylvania has just thrown me a curveball and asked whether or not hyena are not more closely related to mongooses, as that's what he has heard, and mongoose youngsters are called pups. Well, I'm not too sure. Anything is possible, and I am certainly not 100% sure on that. I find it hard to believe, though, but it possibly is the case. So I can't confirm anything there, sadly, Chris. Well, what a wonderful afternoon it's been. Finished off with some cute sightings and some interesting sightings and interactions of this clan of hyena. And it's been a great pleasure sharing these moments with you. So thank you very, very much for all of your help. And apologies for the delay, but it was needed for that rain, that slight deluge that fell down just at the beginning of the drive. Thankfully, we got that, and hopefully there'll be some more. Anyway, thanks Tebs on camera, thanks to Nikki and Kirsty in the final control room, and of course, again, thanks to you. Over to Jamie.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that goes down in the record books as my best drive ever. Certainly the most dignified I have ever behaved in front of camera. So thank you all for your kind words of encouragement. It has been a joy. Wium, thank you for your wonderful camera work. It has been fantastic having you. I'm glad that I could make you smile. I hope I made all of the viewers smile as well. And thank you to the lovely Nikki and Kirst in FC for providing me with the boost after that particular incident. And thank you as always to the wonderful viewers that we have. I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye, guys.